What's up, Barnhill family, and welcome back to your home for all things combat sports.
Yo.
The wait is over. Khamzat Chimaev has an opponent. We thought it was going to be Jared Cannonier. It is, in fact, going to be Paulo Costa. I'm not mad. I actually prefer this fight. There's a lot to break down here as far as the X's and O's are concerned, but how do you see this one playing out?
I love it. And, you know, when the UFC is trying to build a fight, they do like to keep it under wraps. And then eventually you get a little bit of a leak here and there, whether it's from the team or from the UFC, and it's like a look here, look there, and then right where you weren't expecting it, you get the fight that you wanted to see more than any of them. Paulo Costa versus Chimaev is absolutely fireworks, and I think these guys were only destined to fight each other for like the past year and a half, because Paulo Costa has really taken form as of one of the most entertaining people on social media in the entire sport of MMA, and everybody knows Khamzat's a rising star that's heading straight for the belt and wants to take out some tough opposition on the way. This has big fight feel to me.
You took the words right out of my mouth. That's what I was going to say. As soon as this fight got announced, big fight feel. You can feel it. When a certain fight gets announced, you're just like, oh, man. It's almost like you remember where you were when that fight got announced.
Right.
Last night when I saw that social media post, I was like, oh, wow. Hold the phones. I guess like I got to text Nick and show him what's going on. And so breaking down the fight itself, it's a really good fight, and it could go either way. I'm leaning more towards Chimaev winning. I think the pros in favor of Costa are going to be the size and the strength. I mean, Costa is just a behemoth of an individual, and he's extraordinarily strong. I think the cons for Costa, he gets a little emotional sometimes when he fights, as you saw against Izzy and you saw against Marvin Vettori. He wears his emotions on his sleeve, and sometimes that's to his detriment. Now, if you look at pros and cons for Chimaev, Chimaev is going to be a little bit undersized. A lot of people thought that he was a weight bully at 170, and I guess there's an argument that you could make there, especially with some of the amounts by which he's missed weight in the past. So this is going to be an opportunity for him to show that, hey, look, I can get in there with a bigger opponent, and my skill set is going to carry me through. And I think he does have the more complete skill set. I think he's a better wrestler. Costa is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, but I think still Chimaev's got better submissions up his sleeve. I think he's going to be more tenacious from the top. I think his striking's a little bit cleaner. Power could go either way. I mean, honestly, I'd lean a little bit towards Costa as far as just sheer one-punch KO power goes. But as far as technical ability, as far in the striking realm, I would say that Chimaev has probably got the nod. I'm leaning towards this being potentially fight of the night. I think it could go all 3 rounds because Costa's extremely hard to finish, but I think Chimaev ultimately is going to get his hand raised.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of tension in the octagon when they close the door and let these guys start going, and I see this ending in a finish. I'm not exactly sure. I'm leaning towards Chimaev getting a finish, probably by submission or TKO, but what really sticks out to me is there's no denying that Paulo Costa is the bigger guy. But a lot of people think that just because somebody's bigger, they're better at fighting or have a better chance. And if you're talking about a major size discrepancy, then yes, that makes sense. But when you're talking about 2 guys at the very top of the UFC in the same weight class, both have been successful in that weight class, you're not really talking about a size advantage. And what I do think is more important than size when you're talking about people at that level is speed. And Paulo Costa is not known for his speed. He's known for very big power shots and kind of telegraphing his punches and kicks from time to time, especially when the later rounds come in and he starts to get more exhausted. Khamzat Chimaev is very lethal with his strikes. He's very fast, and he's super good at chaining his strikes in to takedowns. And he knows exactly how to jump in there and close the distance, get behind somebody, and take the fight over from there. So I'm leaning towards Khamzat Chimaev taking this fight, not because I think he's going to go in there and clobber Paulo Costa like he did Gerald Mearshart, but I think he's going to go out there and be way too fast for Paulo to get a hold of.
That's a great point, and I think the speed will play a major factor here in this fight, and the speed advantage certainly goes to Chimaev. So he's got to be careful not to get caught, because anybody getting caught by Paulo Costa is going to sleep. But I think he's got the skill, and I think most importantly, it's going to be really interesting to see how much improvement he's made, because he's still a very young guy, I think 27, 28 years old, and we haven't seen him. It will be over a year by the time he fights in Abu Dhabi, how much improvement he's actually made in that time, because he obviously takes his training extremely seriously. So the Khamzat that we saw last and the Khamzat that we're going to see 13 months removed in Abu Dhabi, I believe is going to be a totally different fighter. And if he's as good as I think he's going to be in Abu Dhabi, we could have something really scary, but also super exciting on our hands.
I totally agree. And Khamzat Chimaev threw the game plan out the window when he fought Gilbert Burns. And that's why he wound up getting caught. That's why he wound up, touching the floor a couple times. And he did get his hand raised in that one, but it was a tough fight. He even came out afterwards and said, I didn't follow the game plan. I started to just kind of, go rogue and turn this into a crazy fight. And the fans certainly benefited from that. It was an amazing night. And that fight stood out amongst all the other great fights on that card. But after that fight, we saw him in there against Kevin Holland. And Kevin Holland is a legit grappler, a legit black belt. And, Khamzat Chimaev is one of those guys that doesn't want to go out there and expose your weaknesses. He wants to find your strength and then try to beat you there. And for him to go out there and submit Kevin Holland, and the way he did it too, it wasn't just like go in there, grab somebody, and put him to sleep. Kevin scrambled like crazy. Kevin was doing all the right things, right? He was flipping and Granby rolls and all sorts of stuff to try to get Khamzat off. But the game plan was to submit Kevin Holland. And as soon as he got a hold of him, he rode that wave all the way to the finish. So I think he's going to be very strict with his game plan with Paulo Costa. I think he understands how lethal one punch or one kick from Costa can be on him. And I think he's going to go out there and try to use his speed on the feet to get inside and then take this big guy down. And hopefully he can get a submission.
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening. And what Khamzat Chimaev did to Kevin Holland, I believe, is what Ben Askren envisioned that he was going to do to Jorge Masvidal the night that he ate that knee, because there was literally no setup whatsoever, no punch, no nothing. He shot right in, took the double leg, rode the Granby rolls, and literally, as you said, rode the wave until he was able to solidify the position. I mean, it was a thing of beauty. I don't think he's going to be able to do that to Costa, but I do think he is going to be able to get him down, and that's where he's going to do his most damage as far as ground and pound is concerned. So I'm leaning towards Chimaev. I know you're going with finish. I'm going to go with clear-cut decision just because Paulo's just such a tough guy. Yeah. Either way, we're both picking Chimaev.
Yeah, after 3 rounds with Paulo Costa, I think you're pretty much ready for a title shot at middleweight too. And one other thing I'll say about Chimaev getting the finish is he's going to have to wear Costa down over the first 2 rounds and go for that finish in the third. He's not going to get him out of there early, and he's not going to get him out of there without a fight.
I believe you're right.